China, Russia and Iran are preparing for World War III. World War III. To all people of the world, please be aware. America is about to strike Russia in a fast strike to begin World War III. This is an official warning, it is no joke. All humans must prepare. This is a major bulletin. All people on this planet must cooperate together immediately or the end of this earth will be upon us. There is to be only a small space of time. Mankind must come together now. Stand together. Whatever nation. America must reach out to Russians and all people. Wake up now. We now have the first real shooting war between European countries since World War II. Think about that and consider the carnage the first two world wars caused. Russia is pouring in armor, sophisticated weapons, and supplies to their proxy army against the West and East Ukraine. Their forces are expanding their territory and may be about to cement a land bridge to Putin's newest enclave, the Crimean Peninsula. Putin is also actively courting Eastern European countries that are part of the EU and coaxing them back into Russia's orbit. Russia and Syria are now preparing to move right up to the Israeli border in a massive military move we should all see as the coming world war that starts with the attack on Israel, then Damascus destruction and then a worldwide nuclear war. We are only the fake one-week peace deal away, and today Netanyahu has made more noise that deal is very close. Related, Russia deploys feared EMP weapons, orders troops to stagger defense positions, days of darkness, Russia attacks with electromagnetic pulse.
North Korea's vicious young dictator exploding with confidence tonight. His government's news anchor uses new, very aggressive language to project Kim Jong-un's threat.
Kim Jong-un said we now have the clear capacity to directly and realistically attack American bastards who continue to attempt to invade the Pacific.
Kim's just tested 2 medium-range ballistic missiles. One failed, but weapons monitors call the other one a partial success because the missile flew 250 miles and even briefly entered space.
Saying that he can realistically attack Americans and not just the U.S. in general. That's a new level of threatening language from Kim, right?
Yes. The potential for provocation and provocative language is enhanced by Kim by the fact that now he has the technology that goes to match the language.
When Kim perfects the so-called Musadon missiles he just tested, experts say he'll be able to strike the Aleutian Islands in Alaska or U.S. military units on Guam. A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN tonight Kim's aggressive language, his celebration of this missile launch, underscores his regime's aspiration to be recognized as a nuclear power. Analysts say Kim also wants to fend off the threat he perceives from his principal enemies, who've just wrapped up a massive military exercise on his doorstep.
He wants to deter America from even threatening to intervene. He wants to deter South Korea at the same time, obviously. And to do that, he wants to be able to say, I can attack American bases, kill Americans in their beds.
Kim's also believed to be toughening up against the U.S., possibly to extort concessions.
Any real provocation where he fires one missile off that's with a real warhead does some damage, he'll be decimated. Pyongyang will become essentially a bowl of glass, and I think he knows that.
Still, there are tens of thousands of Americans in Kim's line of fire. More than 28,000 American troops are deployed in South Korea. Analysts worry tonight that if Kim tries to provoke South Korea with artillery fire, maybe a commando raid, that a mishap, a miscalculation from Kim's forces could harm those Americans, then we could be in for a dangerous escalation.
We are just getting this in. The U.S. officials we are speaking to, Brianna, are telling CNN there was a very serious incident with the Iranian Navy yesterday. Now, this is just one day after that video everyone saw of a different incident. But yesterday, in the northern end of the Arabian Gulf, there was an Iranian fast attack craft that came out into the water and began harassing 2 U.S. Navy ships and a Kuwaiti Navy ship. The Iranians, we are told, were circling the Navy ships. They were coming close. They would not leave. At one point, they came within 200 yards of one of the U.S. Navy patrol craft. The Navy, following standard maritime procedure, tried to call the Iranian ship. They got no answer initially. They fired flares. They did then have, a U.S. official says, a brief radio-to-radio conversation with the Iranians, but still, the Iranians did not leave. At that point, we are told that this U.S. Navy patrol craft The USS Squall then made the decision and fired 3 warning shots into the water to warn the Iranians to pay attention and to back off. This is standard maritime procedure for the U.S. Navy. It rarely happens. It has happened in the past, but this is standard procedure when a U.S. Navy ship feels threatened and that threat does not back off. That is really the last resort before you take lethal action. You fire warning shots into the water. So just yesterday, 3 warning shots fired at the Iranians. And this comes one day after that video that we all saw that 4 Iranian ships, again, Revolutionary Guard Corps ships, came out and harassed another U.S. Navy ship. Perhaps the bottom line here is to note that the U.S. believes these Iranian boats belong to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is one of the most militant arms of the security and military services in Iran. This is not the regular Iranian Navy. There is always concern that these maritime forces of Iran that are doing this are not under the central control of the government, and there is always concern that things can get out of hand. The U.S. Navy yesterday taking the action to fire warning shots at the Iranians and tell them to back off.
Hey, Amra, those propaganda photos out of North Korea really are remarkable because they reveal a side of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un we don't normally see, as he was celebrating with his scientists, projecting so much confidence that he feels he has finally perfected this missile technology capable of delivering a nuclear warhead to his enemies, including the United States. Rising from the waters off the eastern Korean peninsula, an ominous new threat from North Korea, the successful test firing of submarine-launched ballistic missile Hukbuk-song, meaning Polaris, the North Star. A weapon North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says puts the U.S. and its allies within striking range of a nuclear attack. A triumphant announcement on the North Korean news. State propaganda images claim to show a perfect launch. Before dawn Wednesday, anxiety turns to exhilaration. Kim Jong-un and his officers smiling, laughing as they track the missile some 500 kilometers, more than 300 miles, further than any previous attempt.
The testing and the phase of the development is very rapid.
A launch attempt just last month failed. A missile fired 4 months ago in April traveled just 30 kilometers, around 18 miles. Analysts believe Wednesday's missile traveled 16 times further, meaning it can strike anywhere in South Korea, home to 50 million people and some 25,000 American troops. The latest launch as U.S. and South Korean forces engage in annual military exercises, similar to these in the spring. Pyongyang views the annual drills as a direct provocation. Troy University professor Daniel Pinkston says war games are vital to keep the peace.
Looking at North Korea's capabilities, their development programs for weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, the shrill rhetoric that comes out of Pyongyang, their objectives are very clear.
North Korean weapons development continues at a breakneck pace, despite nearly universal condemnation and unprecedented international sanctions.
They will allocate resources from other areas and devote it to the missile and nuclear programs.
Kim Jong-un called Wednesday's before dawn launch the greatest success and victory. Feeling the intense pressure to succeed, one officer appears overcome with tears of joy, or perhaps relief.
Russia is deploying its ballistic missile and attack submarines in numbers, range, and aggression not seen in 2 decades. In an exclusive interview, the commander of U.S. naval forces in Europe tells CNN the buildup is part of an alarming strategic view.
They're very clear that NATO is viewed as an existential threat to Russia. Our military capability, they view in a very visceral way as a threat to Russia.
Adding to U.S. concern, Russia is deploying new submarines that are harder for U.S. naval forces to track and detect. Following years and billions of dollars in investment, they are quieter, better armed, and have a greater range of operation.
The submarines that we're seeing are much more stealthy. They're acoustically quieter. We're seeing them have more advanced weapon systems, missile systems that can attack land at long ranges.
The increased Russian sub-activity is backed by a much broader military expansion. Russia is adding or upgrading some 12 naval bases across the Arctic Circle, expanding its capability to send subs in numbers through the crucial Greenland-Iceland-UK gap into the Atlantic and closer to U.S. and NATO territorial waters. Moscow has also newly stationed 6 submarines in the Black Sea, giving Russia new capability into the Mediterranean. The U.S. believes the new activity is designed to deny NATO, including the U.S., the ability to operate within Russia's so-called near abroad. Increasingly alarmed by Russia's new sub-deployments, the U.S. and its NATO allies are launching new training exercises in anti-sub warfare and deploying new systems, including the P-8 Poseidon.
These are sonar buoys dropped into the water to track submarines. The plane can be equipped with torpedoes to destroy those submarines.
Russia's growing military activity extends above the surface as well. A Russian fighter jet's flyby of the USS Donald Cook this week, coming within 30 feet laterally and 100 feet vertically, is behavior that U.S. naval commanders have not witnessed since the Cold War.
We had issued radio calls in both English and Russian, and the aircraft didn't respond and proceeded on a course directly at the ship. So while we've seen these interactions before, this one was different because of the proximity to the ship, the altitude, and the flight path that it took.
These are the big guns of Russia's modern army, the Iskander-M missile system seen launching a cruise missile during a carefully choreographed training exercise in April. And yet this is not NATO's biggest fear. Last year, President Putin announced more than 40 new missiles would be added to Russia's nuclear arsenal, prompting concerns in Washington of a new Cold War.
Analysis of the movements of warships and cargo ships from Russia to Syria reveals that Moscow is increasing the pace of its support for the Syrian regime, despite President Vladimir Putin's March 14 announcement that the Russian military would reduce its presence in the Middle East. Internet site BnTV.com said that the Yaza, a Russian military transport and ice-breaking ship that left Syria in the first week of March, left its home port of Novorossiysk in the Black Sea and is headed back to the Russian naval base in the Syrian port of Tartus. The ship is sailing at a very low speed, indicating that it is carrying heavy equipment, with a Turkish research body reporting that the Yaza is not even leaving a trail in the ocean. Up to 12 Russian military ships are currently sailing in the Mediterranean, including oil tankers, patrol ships and the Zalini-Dalt destroyer armed with Caliber cruise missiles. Now we see ISIS taking over large parts of Iraq and Syria, executing thousands along the way. Our dear leader will not even call these people terrorists. Either he is living in some type of alternate reality, or allowing ISIS to take over the Middle East is his agenda. Again, I say, look at the results of his actions, not what he says. In either case, we have a serious global security threat mushrooming in historically violent parts of the world. The United States is weak, absent, pathetic. The mainstream media may not want to call this president on these facts, but I will. We are witnessing the beginnings of World War III. We will write about this weakness in the history books one day, as we are without a leader who can deal with the situation. I fear for my children. Addressing the Russian top brass on Wednesday, Vladimir Putin lambasted U.S. Middle East policy for being disastrous as Saudi-backed rebels vowed to purge Syria and Iraq from Christians and other ethnic and religious minorities. The U.S. Army chief has come out and threatened war with Russia. If this happens, this could be more devastating than World War II.
We are now only 33 days out from one of the most important, if not the most important, elections in the 242-year history of this greatest republic to ever be on the face of the earth. The new Atlantis, founded by liberty lovers in the UK. What is the UK today from jolly old England? All right, ladies and gentlemen, get ready, because I am going to be a good boy today. I am going to really sock it to the enemy, and I am going to go through a whole bunch of debate highlights from last night. I let the crew take over since I did the Assange non-event wiki tease coverage the night before. The crew did a great job. That full 3+ hour coverage and the debate is on Infowars.com if you missed any of it. Wow, where to begin? And if you are a longtime listener and you have friends and family you want to wake up, you can go get our 3 hours of debate coverage, send it to them, and say, hey, this is really interesting. This might change your mind. Because we hit things from an angle that the establishment media doesn't. This is an info war. So I know you, the listeners, are awake. In a lot of cases, more awake than I am. What I'm asking you to do is to go out and to wake up others. And obviously, you know that, but we need to consciously do that every single day. Before I get into the debate that Governor Pence clearly won in a huge, huge margin, even mainstream liberal media is having to admit it because the trouncing was so over the top. Despite that, they are still trying to spin things for Creepy Kane. Now, in the last segment, if you just joined us, I said he looks like somebody I wouldn't let my children stay with as a babysitter. He looks like a creep. He looks like the Grinch that stole Christmas. He acts like a creep. And he's all tied into the Jesuits and the rest of it, so you know all that weirdness that's going on. And the guy is trying to sell out our sovereignty, get rid of our borders, and take our guns. And so I made the point. I said he looks like a child molester. And I'm sorry, he's known as Creepy Kane. I'm not saying he's a child molester. I don't believe that. I'm not trying to imply that. I'm saying I wouldn't buy a stick of bubble gum from this guy, and I wouldn't associate with him because he gives me the willies and the back of my spine crawls when I look at him. And I've been saying this since she selected him, that he looks like a creep. Now he's known as Creepy Kane on the internet. And we're not just saying this to defeat Hillary. She looks like a wicked Joker. He looks like a wicked cross between the Grinch and the Joker. I mean, he just has the mannerisms of a frickin' demon. The return of the Grinch, Tim Kaine, the Grinch. I mean, he looks like Renfield, like the servant of Dracula. A cross between Quasimodo and Renfield and the Grinch and, I don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, if I was going to cast a creepy serial killer that grabs kids out of the back of their yards and puts them in white pervert vans, I would cast him. He has a shot in Hollywood. He could be the #1 star in the world, playing the part of child kidnappers. This is the guy that is trying to kidnap our country right now. Yes, I've taken the gloves off and I put brass knuckles on. Get ready, it's day 33. I'm going in, through and beyond. Absolutely caution to the wind. You want the real deal. You want clobbering time. You want the gloves off. You got it. Because I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, unequivocally, there is not going to be any future in this nation if we don't reverse this. Look at this headline, and I have a video clip. I didn't see that in my video list. I forgot to ask you guys, please get it. And then the other clip of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs saying something similar 2 weeks ago. U.S. Army chief threatens war with Russia. We will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before. He said, prepare for a war as big as World War II to the U.S. Army and other armed services. And that's because the neocons running Obama have begun to prepare for a war with Russia, and they're trying to trick Russia into a response. And with the October surprise, and CNN has hinted at this and others have, is a war with Russia. And again, I said this last week, it finally clicked because I was so close to the problem I couldn't see the elephant in the room or the mushroom cloud in the room. I kept saying, why do they accuse Trump and Pence and myself and Drudge and Breitbart and everyone under the sun? I mean, they actually put us on TV and put my head beside Putin's and Trump's and say, I mean, you heard Hillary in her speech. She said, these alt-right people get their orders from Putin. He's their godfather. This is the most, I get my orders from common sense, Bill of Rights, Constitution, and my family name and the spirit of God that pulls my strings. I certainly don't get it from Vladimir Putin. I mean, I've never been to Russia. Don't have one drop of Slavic blood in me. But I don't want to have war with Russia for no reason. I know the elements. I know what's going on. And it hit me. It clicked like a ton of bricks hitting me in the head from 1,000 feet up. Oh, my gosh. They want to put their opposition in a corner when they start a war. That's one of their main plans, to bring in permanent emergency and martial law and rationing and all the controls. And Agenda 21 is through a war. Globalism is rationing, is the end of prosperity, is a command and control economy where the globalists pick the winners, where they're above the law. And it hit me. That's why they're encircling Russia with weapons. That's why they're trying to start a war. That's why they're destabilizing these countries and overthrowing them like Ukraine and turning the Middle East over to radical Islam. Because they're going to ally with radical Islam against Russia in a war and then flood Europe with Islam to conquer it and then conquer us as well as a police state using the threat of Islam. But Europe is slated to be given to Islam. And it all just crystallized. Then I can go read white papers where they're actually saying this is their plan. So it's so diabolical. It's led by weirdos with huge jack-o'-lantern heads like Hillary that look like rubber Joker faces and creepy Kane creeping around. I mean, you ask, why would they do something so evil? Because these are evil people. And let me explain something else to you. Do you know who the neocons are? Let's be extremely clear about this, okay? I've studied it. I've read their books. They're from the Chicago Business School and Harvard. They took it over. The Trotskyites ran with billions of dollars of gold and diamonds and other goodies they robbed when Stalin kicked Trotsky out of the country, okay? This is pre-World War II. He was later killed in Mexico City with a ice axe. In the old days, they hacked up big deals of ice where you got your ice from an ice house, not from your refrigerator or freezer. The media will probably say it's a conspiracy theory that we never had, ice houses. But the point is, he was killed with that, but I'm going into two little factoids that don't matter. With the billions, just like the Bushes were the main Nazi lawyers, Prescott Bush is on record. That's been London Guardian, New York Times, Associated Press. It's admitted. The Bushes were the main bagmen for a lot of the Nazi money in South America and Central America. That's why they're secretly so powerful, is because they're so incredibly rich. It's why 30-something-year-old guy, as soon as he turns 40, is made director of the CIA. Nobody ever did that before. Or George Herbert Walker Bush. And Skull and Bones was founded by the Germans. It's a Germanic death cult, but a side issue. The Trotskyites had billions reportedly in stolen Russian loot from Christians and other people they'd robbed from Poland to Ukraine to Russia proper. And they got kicked out by Stalin. Say what you want about him. He kicked the Trotskyites, led by Leon Trotsky. They all ran to Mexico and then changed their names and stuff and went into the U.S. with all this money. And that's who founded, this is in the Washington Post, by the way. I mean, this is not secret. This is who founded the modern neocons, and they took over the Republican Party, and their mission was always to reconquer Russia. And so you wonder why it's like a suicide mission to get Russia. It's because Grandpa and Daddy got killed by the Russians, and most of the Trotskyites didn't make it out, but their kids did. And now their kids, Crystal, all of them, are the neocons. They sit there and act real friendly and real nice. These guys are actually sitting, reportedly, on huge, again, underground wealth like the Bushes and are super powerful with communist money that they brought into the country. And look at how they run things. So that's why they're trying to start a war. But do we have the chairman of the Joint Chiefs last week? We have that clip where he said that, okay, you want a no-fly zone? We got to have war with Russia. Do you have that clip? Okay, I want to play that clip in the next segment, and then I want to get to this article. U.S. Army chief threatens war with Russia. We will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before. Goes on and says, this war will be bigger than anything we've seen this generation and will be the size of World War II. Get prepared. That's Army Chief of Staff General Mark Milley. Warned last night that the United States was ready to, quote, destroy its enemies in comments that were clearly directed at Russia. I want to be clear to those who do wish to harm us, the United States military, despite all of our challenges, despite our operational tempo, despite everything have been doing, we will stop you and we will beat you harder than you've ever been beat before. Make no mistake about it. The general went on to warn that Russia and other countries have taken advantage of U.S. being focused on the war on terror. So he goes on and puts Russia in the same group as North Korea and China, that our government has been arming and giving nuclear reactors to and missile secrets, everything else. Russia's got 2.5 military bases, one small port and 2 other bases. They're not attacking anybody, and that's why they're being targeted. And they're being encircled, and they think this is going to be the detonator for the full takeover of society. And he goes on to say, He cautioned that the next major conflict would, quote, be lethal unlike anything our army has experienced, at least since World War II, and would involve fighting in highly populated urban areas. Make no mistake about it, we can now and we will retain the capability to rapidly deploy, he said, and we will destroy an enemy anywhere, anytime, he concluded. Yeah, I mean, I guess, 20 million Germans did die in World War II, and I guess they had the same idea. Because the Russians were willing to have 20 million people died and not be over. I mean, 20 million Russians died, 21 million Germans. Look it up. And I get it. You can go kill them, and because the neocons said so, and it's liberal to have World War III, and it's fun, and it's trendy, and you've got the Hollywood Reporter admitting that the elite are all running to New Zealand to sit it out while we all kill each other, and the globalists bring down their enemy, the United States and Russia, at the same time. This is the type of garbage that's going on. Russia tells its citizens nuclear war with the West could happen soon. So there's an hour-long speech that the head of the Army, Chief of Staff General Mark Milley, gave. It's on armytimes.com, by the way, if you doubt Infowars.com, where he says we're going to have casualties in basically a war as big as World War II. We haven't seen anything like this since World War II. We're ready to go to war with Russia right now. And that's why you saw the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dumford, a week and a half ago, say, yes, you're asking us to do a no-fly zone. You're asking us, that's the full speech. We played it a few weeks ago, to shoot cruise missiles in and shoot down Russian aircraft. Yes, but then they're going to respond to where those missiles came from. And that's going to be World War III. So the reason generals are coming out and speaking like this is actually to stop the politicians and the neocons and the Obama people with Hillary from launching World War III. I can tell you right now, and I'm not lionizing the U.S. Army, but it does not want nuclear war with Russia. It knows Russia is not expanding. Our military is actually concerned about China. And you notice the politicians have actually listened to that and have pivoted to the Pacific. But the globalists, because they want to take control of the United States and have a big war, they want to push Russia into confrontation. They've already got an economic war going. But I've got the crew going through the hour-long speech to grab. I mean, I read to you where he says, as big as World War II, we haven't seen anything like this since World War II. We can destroy you. We're ready for war. We're on the verge of war. And I just see these clips out of Russia every day. I see these clips out of the Pentagon every day. And I keep warning people. And they have mainstream news articles making fun of us, saying we're fearmongers. None of this is going on. So the trendies can all just sit around making jokes all day. This isn't funny. I have 3 children. That's why I'm taking the gloves off. And you know what? If I think Tim Kaine looks like a weird pervert, I'm going to say it. He acts like one. He acts like a political molester of the Constitution. The gloves are off. Brass knuckles are on. You people are not starting World War III. Do you understand? The Communist Chinese basically run our media now and have their product placement everywhere. They're the ones taking over all the rare earth minerals, all the major ports, the Panama Canal. They've got their agents everywhere. Russia is on the verge of collapse, and you're trying to start World War III with them. It's bull. And the same globalist did the October Revolution in 1917 on record. The same globalist funding Black Lives Matter and Revolution Here are the very same grandchildren of the same robber baron elites and people that are doing all this. Remember Hillary a month ago threatened Russia with war? If we think Russia launches a cyber attack, we'll physically attack. We have that. Then I'm going to play the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dumford. But here is Hillary Clinton just to remind you of how serious the situation is.
You've seen reports. Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. Maybe even some state election systems. So we've got to step up our game. Make sure we are well defended and able to take the fight to those who go after us. As president, I will make it clear that the United States will treat cyber attacks just like any other attack. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military responses.
And a month before that, NATO said its new policy is if they think someone in Russia launches a cyber attack, they attack Russia. We covered that at the time, and no one seemed to care. There's the headline from The Hill. Clinton, treat cyber attacks like any other attack, respond militarily. Now, coming up, we have Tim Kaine, the creepy Kaine, as he's known. I don't know if he's a pervert, but he certainly looks like a creep and acts like a creep and is anti-American and wants open borders, saying that terrorism is over. It doesn't exist. Really, ISIS calls for random knife attacks in alleys, forests, and beaches, and less than 1 day later, 3 Belgian police officers stabbed in suspected terror attack as they scream Allah Akbar all over malls in the U.S., all over malls in Kenya, malls in Germany, malls in France, malls in Belgium. This is what goes on. Cops at parks, cops getting out of their car, being stabbed. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah. Nothing to do with Islam, though. Oh, ISIS, that's the group that has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. You've opened our borders up, you little traitor, with Hillary, and now you tell us terror doesn't exist, like you control reality. Let's go to this clip of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs saying, yeah, I can follow your orders. I can launch cruise missiles right now. They're like, can't you just shoot down the Russian planes? Yeah, then Russia will respond. 2 + 2 = 4. These people are crazy. Let's go to the clip.
For Syria.
What about the option of controlling the airspace so that barrel bombs cannot be dropped?
All the options.
What do you think of that option, sir?
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia. That's a pretty fundamental decision that certainly I'm not going to make.
So that's why you have the chairman of the Joint Chiefs coming out, and now you have the head of the Army coming out saying, all right, we're ready to fight Russia, because they know the elites are telling them to go to war, so they're trying to make Russia back down. Yeah, we're ready to take you on, Russia, and we're ready to have something big as World War II. Is the public listening? We're ready to have a war as big as World War II. We're ready to have a war. We're ready to go to war if you order us to, but is that what you want? Everybody want a new world war? A new world war? Because that's what they're saying. World War III is what it's called.
Nearly 2 million Orthodox Christians in Levant, Syria and Lebanon, and approximately 5 million Christians across Middle East. Regardless of America's presidential election outcome, White House craves chaos in that oil-rich region by supporting fanatic Islamist organizations, that is ISIS and al-Nusra Front. Moscow's Kaya Pravda cited the Russian president as saying, "It is morally incumbent upon Russia to change this terrible status quo in the Middle East," added Mr. Putin, "prepare for Operation Salvation, and with God Almighty's aid, we shall cleanse Syria from Obama's ruthless terrorists." Everyone needs to be prepared for that. Unfortunately, another world war is inevitable. You better weapon up and start studying about food preservation and which foods to start stockpiling on. Lieutenant General Joseph Anderson said America faces frightening threats: modern nation-states acting aggressively in militarized competition. He said, "Who does that sound like? Russia." Army Chief of Staff General Mark Milley added that war between nation-states is almost guaranteed. While he warned that America's enemies could end their superiority in the air, which it has enjoyed since the Korean War in 1950, and stop its naval forces through a mixture of anti-access and area denial capabilities. The world economy is so broken due to plundering by international bankers and other Zionist elites that depression too is inevitable. Just like World War II and Depression I, World War III will be the only way to distract people from their impending economic misery, mask the effects of Depression II, and get economies going again. Just like World War II and Depression I, international bankers and other Zionist elite will be the real beneficiaries by loaning and selling to all sides and once again scooping up small businesses, farms and residences for 1/10 their value. Another major war is on the horizon, but whether it will be a global conflagration is yet proven. Revelation's final conflict will come to pass, but the time of its occurrence is not known to man. How ironic and ludicrous those planners are looking to copy a disastrous Yamamoto strategy and have the arrogance to believe that they are omniscient. A useful analogy compares the Daleks, a fictional extraterrestrial race of mutants from the British TV Doctor Who series, with the satanic globalist death merchants that thrive on human suffering and ruin. This tribe of money changers, bent on universal conquest and destruction, has brought down countless societies. The Chinese capitalists' nouveau riche never lost their repressive attitude and undemocratic culture towards their coolie class. That is a trait which coincides with their globalist gangster partners. Allowing a Hiroshima radiation of Chinese joint venture assets does not advance the final subjugation of the planet, for the fascist corporatists. Ever since Zionism conquered the United States, This country has been ruled under Talmud precepts that only benefit the NWO master plan.